Thank you.
So, yeah, it's almost time, but I
Yeah,
think we
sounds
should
good.
wait for 1 more minute for some more students to join.
Sure. And like we discussed, you will start first and then I will talk about the speaker and then it will
Yeah,
be
yeah,
and Q&A at the end.
yeah, yeah. So, okay, let's start. Okay. Thank you everyone for joining today and welcome to our Research Colloquium. But this week we are actually co-hosting with Women's in Data Science, Stillwater, uh, for a seminar, and Priya as an ambassador did a wonderful job to collaborate with the other researchers in data science field and then like that organize this entire seminars. So I'm giving Priya the floor to like introduce the speaker with us and then let's start.
Thank,
Thank you everyone.
thank you, Dr. Jahan. Good morning, all. Welcome to the WIDS seminar. Today, we are going to have a special guest speaker, Dr. Miriam Mecca, and she is a Business Analytics Student Association faculty advisor and a professor of professional practice for business analytics and data science at the School of International Markets, PS Business School. And today, she's going to talk about Break the Chain, Combating Sex Trafficking with Big Data. And this project was awarded a Women for OSU Partnering to Impact in a grant to help develop app. So now over to the speaker and Dr. Miriam, please carry on. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. This is going to be nice and small, and can y'all hear me okay? I just want to make sure we can do that first.
Sure.
Perfect. Okay, so I am going to share my screen so you can see this. Well, actually, before I do that, let me double check. I know we have about an hour. How long do I have?
45 minutes and
Okay.
probably 10 to 15 minutes for Q&A. And then if students wanted to ask more questions, they can put their questions on the website that I'll show at the end of the finishing time.
Okay.
And maybe you can answer on online.
Yeah, that's perfect. We'll have lots of time for questions, so that's not a problem. Now, I know one of the things that you and I talked about was how I got into data science.
Yes.
So career paths and all of those things. So
Yes.
mine is not a typical career path, and some of the people on this call are students and have heard this or know about it. Others have not. I am in the School of Marketing and International Business, but I do not have a marketing or business degree, nor a data science or computer science or MIS degree. I am kind of the uh, rare bird here in my department and in the business school, but my background is very much in that world, just in a different domain. So I started out with a plan to go to medical school. So my bachelor's degree is in biology. And working through college, I worked in hospitals and decided that medical school was not the direction I wanted to go. And I talked with a professor I had in college who was a doctor who also happened to be an epidemiologist, which most people think is related to skin, and that is incorrect. This today, we actually don't get that as much as we get, oh, y'all are the COVID people. Um, sort of. So Yes, epidemiologists are very heavily into researching health events. So that's what I did. I graduated with my bachelor's in biology and I went to OU, the other school, and got my master's in epidemiology, which I loved, not ever wanting to work in a state health department or county health department. I wanted to go into clinical research or genetic research. And then I graduated from my master's degree and realized I needed a job. Right? So we all get to that. You're like, oh, I now have these loans I have to pay. So then I went to work for the state health department in a division called injury prevention. So I was researching fire and burn injuries for 4 years. So I did some other things while I was there, but my main focus was fire and burn injury research, which is the farthest from COVID and skin that you could probably get. Actually, it's pretty related to skin, but I spent a very long time traveling the state of Oklahoma, going to different hospitals and different fire departments and all kinds of things, doing education on fire and burn injuries, uh, doing hospital medical record abstracts on injuries and all kinds of things. So it was a lot of data collection, it was a lot of education, and it was a lot of data analysis. I did small papers on different types of fire injuries. This is my one claim to fame, right? No, I have a paper that was on brush and trash fires that was quoted on a marijuana user's website. So, I mean, that's high class right there. Uh, so, they were having a conversation about using accelerants for um, burning trash they didn't want the government to see. And then somebody quoted one of my papers on how that was a bad idea. So anyway, so research can get you quoted on places. That one is just the funniest one. So after I was doing that for a while, I decided that I would go back to school. And I went back and got my PhD. And in the process of that, for all those that are in the process of doing school right now, I was accepted to the PhD program here at Oklahoma State in educational psychology. And 2 weeks later, found out I was pregnant with my first child. So
Oh,
I did my entire first semester pregnant with my child, and ended up having him. I had class on Monday night, had him on Tuesday, and he and I were back in class on the following Monday. So it can be done. So he spent my entire PhD learning research and statistics along with me. So and is now 20 years old or almost 20 years old in 2 weeks, and is a sophomore here on campus.
nice.
So while I was at the health department and working on my degree, I had moved over to another division, and I built an entire analytics division from the ground up. They didn't have epidemiologists in this division at all. They didn't have any researchers in the division, and it was all about community support and community public health programs. So all of the county health departments that you go to or know about, those are the things that I got to do research on and work with. And so it was a lot of fun. We built some pretty great analytics products for the state throughout that process. But 15 years in that program, or in that agency, and I decided to make the full-time switch over to OSU. So I was teaching part-time also the entire time. So I was an adjunct. I started out as an adjunct, and then I moved over full-time to here. So my path was not traditional by any means. And for all those that are in school now, don't be afraid to blaze your path. It's okay. I found a PhD program that would allow me to design my classes and my research the way I wanted, the way I wanted my career to go, and it worked out fantastic. So, be your advocate. That is the biggest thing I can say as a scholar, as a researcher, as an analyst, as a woman in this field, because we're few and far between. um, so be your own advocate. That's number one. So one of the things that I have been very lucky about in my career is that I have had the flexibility to look at all kinds of different things. I have researched, as I said, fire and burn injuries. I have researched head injuries, domestic violence, um, mental health. I have looked at infant mental health. I have looked at teen pregnancy and um, how we can, avoid teen pregnancies or delay them. It's just delay pregnancy at all uh, to where people are at a more stable point in their lives. All of that has brought me a lot of uh, joy and fun, but nothing has been quite as challenging, I think, as the project that I have been working on since 2016 or 17.
Oh,
And
wow.
that is the human trafficking and the sex trafficking project. So that's what I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about today, because we still work on it today. It's a never-ending project. The problem will never go away, with as is many public health problems, they never go away. We take a little bit of a different spin on it here. We don't look at necessarily the backside of surviving or extracting people from trafficking situations. We look at it from how can we avoid these, people getting in these situations in the first place. And part of that is really using business practices and marketing practices to find those traffickers to begin with, the recruiters, the ones that are out there trafficking these kids, or adults. It doesn't matter. It's all of the above. And really, how can we do that in a way where we are keeping up with the traffickers that are changing their methods all the time? It was very easy when people were standing on street corners and you could go find them, right? So that's not the case anymore. So we're going to talk about that. So I want to first of all pause there and see if there are any questions before I move on about career paths or anything like that. Because
Does anyone has any question about, she said a very inspiring story. So do anyone has any questions on that? I think this crowd is silent. Probably they might be interested in knowing the web trafficking more.
okay, so I am going to share this screen. And I'm going to try to remember that y'all are there and look at you every now and then, but I am going to pull up my notes on this screen. So we will get started, right? Okay. Oh, look, there you are. There's your pictures. I'm going to move your pictures right over here so I can see you guys. All right, so we started this project a long time ago. It was a combined project, a joint project with Louisiana State University and University of Alabama. The professor that we worked with in Alabama has since retired, and we are still working with LSU, however. So that's it's been a very good uh, supportive relationship between the two universities. So that's been really nice. We've done some joint papers together. All right. So the whole purpose of this project was really how can we take big data and apply these business methods, marketing techniques, and start to find the traffickers. So in the public health standpoint, we look at the epidemiologic triangle, and that's really how we can look at the vector that, the point of transmission, the host that is transmitting the disease or health, whatever it is, and then the environment around it. So applying those same epidemiologic techniques along with business and marketing techniques, we have been able to look at some very interesting things. So what are we going to talk about today? So today we're going to talk about what is trafficking and what specifically this portion of research is looking at into trafficking, and then what you can do about it as students, as citizens, as potential, employers and employees, and just, aware human beings. So let's get on into that process. So what is human trafficking, right? It's a very broad phrase. It's defined, it used to be defined in many ways, but it's now gotten pretty narrowed in and specific. So human trafficking is really the act of recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of persons by means of threat or use of force or forms of coercion, abduction, fraud, deception, any of those things, really that abuse of power and really abusing that the vulnerabilities. And also, taking in, giving or receiving of payments or benefits to achieve the consent of a person, having control over another person, all for the purpose of exploitation. So really, you're looking at, it is the act of doing something to another person, whether that's recruiting, transporting, transferring them, harboring them, or receiving them through force, fraud, or coercion. And really, it's for the purpose of exploitation. It is not for any other purpose other than you are using them for something that they don't necessarily or wouldn't necessarily choose themselves. So this is very much a form of modern slavery, and approximately, just under 50 million people are estimated to be in modern slavery environments in the every year. These are estimates because it's really hard to kind of, count them. They're very hidden. But about 22 million people are in this kind of forced environment. And then 27-ish million are in private or public environments. And of those 22 million people in this forced labor kind of component or this forced relationship structure, out of 5 of them are children. So it's not just a child problem. It's not just an adult problem. It is, it's both. And then the forced labor component is about, another 28-ish million people. So out of the forced labor environment, the actual people, we have 17 and a half are in typical labor environments. About 6 million are in commercial sexual exploitation environments, and then 4 million or so are in if you think, so it's called state enforced labor. And so think state or governments that force children and adults into military work or some sort of forced labor there. These numbers are not updated regularly, so you know, they're very hard to come by. So these are a little bit, you know, a couple of years old, but they haven't really changed too drastically in the last 5 or 6 years. So they've been relatively steady. It is a very large business. If you come down to it, it's $150 billion a year business a year. It's not chump change that these types of modern slavery, forced marriages, arranged marriages, commercial sexual exploitation are taking on. It's huge business. It has increased since 2016, but either the numbers are staying static in the 20s or in the 2020s, but we haven't really seen a huge increase since this big jump since 2016. Part of the issue is we just might not be having new data collected, so it hasn't been updated for a few years. So, what is the role of technology in trafficking? And I'd say the role of technology in trafficking is very similar to the role of marketing, although we would use different terms. We are, you know, in marketing, we are advertising products and brands and services and companies. We are trying to recruit customers to our businesses and our brands. We're trying to retain them. We're not necessarily trying to exploit them. We're trying to, you know, have them be invested in our brands within a traditional marketing world. Same thing in trafficking, just not nice, right? So they're using technology for advertising jobs in the commercial sexual exploitation world. Really, those jobs are like, come model for us, and then there's no modeling job. Those things. Come be a nanny. That's another large one. They're advertising exploitive services, so online webcam dating, or you know, dates that really aren't what people would normally typically choose to do. Recruitment of technology is using social media and web pages where you know, they're finding these vulnerable kids and adults. They're finding people that are lacking something or searching for something. And the grooming begins so early in these social media pages. And it's not just social media or web pages anymore. Now it's games and text messages. So if you have an electronic device, you've probably received some random text message at some point in time that meant nothing to you. But somebody, you know, and you just deleted it, but somebody out there has probably responded to that and gotten stuck in a situation they couldn't get themselves out of. And then really exploitation, technology comes heavily into exploitation. We as people, very social animals, have become very free with our information, right? Out on social media. That is all right for use for those people that are looking to wiggle their way into your life. And so they exploit any small thing that comes out that they can. Video equipment is used and recorded. If you think you are controlling that technology, you're not. It's, you know, all kinds of things can happen out there. Screen capture of all of those things. If you think Snapchat is there and away, it is not. And really, they can just record that and use it to exploit their victims very heavily. They also then can sell that video or recording and blackmail or make money off of it that way. So it's technology, great. Some of us wouldn't have jobs without it. Technology, scary, very scary at the same time. I mean, I have a almost 20-year-old and an almost 14-year-old daughter, and they have heard it all from me about don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that over the years. So my son was not allowed to have social media until he was almost out of high school. And my daughter still doesn't have it. So if we could keep it that way, I'll be happy. All right. Let's talk about cases and how big of a problem this is. So while these numbers don't look large, they do not look large. The encouraging process is that they are going up, meaning that we are able to prosecute more cases. We're able to put legal solutions around these. And the fact that they're going up is exciting. However, 27 cases doesn't seem like a ton. 18 cases doesn't seem like a ton. These are federal cases. They're typically pretty large. For example, one of these court cases, and this is only a sample of cases. It was a very small sample that they went and looked through. But one of these court cases is a single trafficker.
Sorry, Dr. Miriam. Habib, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. So one of these cases was a single trafficker who was working alone, did all of their work through social media and online, managed to exploit and connect one victim that they groomed from an online environment with over 100 sex buyers in 60 days using just online advertisement. And so it's if you can get the trafficker and you can get that victim out of the pipeline, the ability to stop the flow, it's not going to be immediate, but it is definitely going to be reduced. So, the trauma has already been inflicted on this one victim, but if we can keep additional trauma from being inflicted on her, fantastic. If we can keep this one trafficker from getting additional victims, that is just ecstatic in my world. That's what we get so excited about. So let's talk about how traffickers avoid the law. And we have done this research for a while, and we have worked with the Louisiana State Police, the Oklahoma State Police, the Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics, which is where the human trafficking enforcement and policing organization lives in Oklahoma. And they are looking at our research and they are like, yep, this is absolutely correct. So what are they doing? So traffickers are using burner phones. They're using multiple phone numbers. We know they use these things and they discard them. One of the questions that we wanted to know was how long do they use them? And do the numbers ever come back in other locations? So that was one of the questions that we were able to look into. They use things like Google Voice or other online internet phone calling based systems. They disguise phone numbers within ads, and they move to other locations. So they have specific patterns in how they go about the country or how they travel. So we as researchers have to look into this. It's not just how can we pull numbers out of an ad to see if we're getting the same phone number over and over again. It's how can we pull differing patterns, like the numbers in text form or the numbers with additional symbols in them. It's or images of numbers. That's been the last few years. But we do find these patterns. And I wanted to show you kind of an example of this. So I will just say that the text, the online advertisements that we use for the research are graphic. We have a lot of breaks that we do in our research when we have to read these. This is probably one of the least offensive ones that we've seen so far. And I have hidden numbers, so we're not out there perpetrating the issue. But it's stuff like this where we start to see patterns in how people post what they write. So we look at author attribution models, and we look at other text analytics models and image analytics models to kind of do this research. So after we've looked at about 3 million online ads over the years, we have found that patterns can be found. We look at text analytics, and we extract phone numbers, names, locations, characteristics, all from that very unstructured data that is coming out of online ads. So they are they're on websites, they even pay for Google ads these days, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of those, even the card games that you play on your phones, they all have them. So in chat sessions of the card games, then we create this into a very structured data set, and we start looking at patterns, and we look at things like persistence. How often is the same ad being posted out online? And are they doing it a whole bunch within a short time frame, or are they doing a lot of them across multiple geographies, which has happened. I just was working on this project with some of this data, and some of these places can be just a town or two. Some of them can be like, I'm in DFW and I can hit all of Texas, all of Oklahoma, all of Arkansas, all of Louisiana. And so they just travel. Most likely, what it is it's one trafficker with many victims, and they are sending, or a trafficking organization with many victims, and they are sending different people out to those locations. It's not the same person that's being advertised. And then movement. We have seen patterns of movement. Whenever they hit a certain time frame, then they'll go to the next community. Or if a sporting event comes into town, we have seen an influx of ads. Hey, coming in for the Super Bowl or whatever. So we see that in the data. And it's been very interesting. All of this is leading up to how can we help law enforcement kind of find those traffickers. But one of the problems that we faced is that, it's not like these ads are out there going, hey, I'm a sex trafficker. Come look at my ad and arrest me, right? That would be fantastic, but they don't, because that would be bad business. And so we have to figure out a way to narrow the focus, right? So we did one study with this data where we had kind of our LSU experts take 3,000 online ads, and they grouped them into one of these categories. It's a lot of reading and it's quite traumatic, but we did this because then we repeated it here at OSU in a slightly different way. We took those 3,000 ads and we broke them up into different sets, and had 2 students each look at them. And I think they had about 1,000 ads each. I could be wrong on that number, but they had to then categorize them with a definition that we had put around each one of these categories. We wanted to test in a very manual way to see if our students using those definitions came up with the same category that the experts came up with. And for the most part, they did. This is a whole nother study, and if y'all want to talk about it, we can. But for the most part, they did. We then took those same ads and sent them through a text analysis and predictive model to predict the category, and compared the expert review to the student reviews to the model review. And by far, the text analytics and predictive model came up with a better outcome than the students did. So they were closer, almost 96% closer. There was a very high rating to the experts. So we were very excited about that. The experts are not the ones that came up with the definitions. Those were created out of the ad itself once we got the categories from them. And then, so we were able to get really close to those experts with the model, which we were super excited about. Now we're refining it all the time. The ones that we've been working on lately, within the last couple of years, has been adding in emojis and emoticons to the model so we can actually improve that accuracy. The reason why we want that is because we want to focus in on those escort ads. We don't necessarily want to focus in on the legal entertainment ventures like spas and legal dating activities and legal adult entertainment, because adult entertainment is legal in some states. We also don't want to look at club reviews or rescue information. We want to focus in on where we're going to find those people that are recruiting and that are advertising. So we look at the escort and the recruiting section categories mostly. So once we did all of that and we were able to get that kind of target put out, we run the ads through a model and now have an app developed for law enforcement that they can go in, and we're in the testing phases of this one, but they can go in and look to see if the phone number, the name, or the location, something distinct about their investigation is found within this environment, within our app data. So we developed this app as part of the app building. My gosh, my brain just went blank. The app building competition that the East or the Riata Center puts on, and the app center jointly put on. So this app made it through and was one of the finalists for that competition. So we were super excited about that. Had students working on it then. It right now has the law enforcement component in it. we have focused on that because there is another app that we are linking to, that we will be linking to out of the UK, that does the concerned citizen component. And I'll talk about that one in just a minute. But let me show you what we have so far. So this is just kind of some snapshots of it. And I have another slide deck that, or like a video that I can show you of the app being worked, but we'll save that one for the end. Okay, so this is its current environment. It has a login process, so you can't get into it without having the username and password. And then so that is all developed. We have an Android version and a web version. It is being beta tested through Stillwater Police and some other locations. And we will be working on that concerned citizen component in the future. It is an app called the Stop app out of the UK. And we would also like to put in like a vision search, an image search or a vision capture search at some point, but that's down the road. We're not quite there yet. So if anybody has questions, please ask. Because if not, then I'm going to pop into this last section of what you can do to help, right? So,
Anyone has any questions till now, or you wanted to ask at the end? Maybe we can we can go ahead, Dr. Miriam. Maybe
okay.
you will have questions at the end.
Okay. So let's talk about knowing the signs. Common signs are really what you would think they are. Specific signs of sex trafficking are people are frightened, they're withdrawn, they're confused, very similar to domestic violence victims. They have restricted movement or they're always accompanied. Again, very similar to domestic violence victims. The kind of kicker is they give a lot of incorrect information, or they claim not to know personal details, and they may not know some details. They may not know their where they're staying, or they may not know where their their documents are at. They also have just really unexplained aches and pains, and they have a lot of sexually transmitted infections, and they have a lot of unexplained money and expensive gifts, but they don't really have the background, I would say, to have those expensive gifts. Also, as a student, they can have this sudden change in grades, and they're not engaging in school the same way that they used to. They have eating disorders, and they start, or maybe are doing self-harm. Some of these things are very early in the grooming process, the self-harm and the eating disorders. Some of them, the expensive gifts, things like, in the extra money. Some of them are later in that process. English vocabulary, when they necessarily don't have an English vocabulary to begin with, but when they do, it's all very sexualized in nature. They're not allowed to keep their own money. There's signs of physical abuse, cigarette burns, tattoos, things like that. So what can you do as a manager, employee, a parent, a citizen, just an average citizen? There's all kinds of things. So if you are in a work environment, you can post signs. We can get you signs. Signs. So Texas has a legislation where signs are mandated in certain locations. We do not have that, but in Oklahoma, but we have signs that we can get you with information if you need them. As a parent, you can really keep those healthy relationships with your kids. Talk to them early, talk to them often about healthy relationships, healthy sexual development, all of those things. And I cannot say enough about online safety and teaching kids about online safety, whether they're your kids or somebody else's kids. That's okay. Be that person that teaches every child you know about online safety, and that's okay. As a citizen, if you're just walking around and you're like, I don't know what I can do about that, be an informed consumer. Know what you're buying. Know if it's something that is from an area that would have high rates of forced labor. Stay informed and know what's going on. Volunteer and help with trafficking, whether it's sex trafficking or any other trafficking, labor trafficking, any of the volunteer with those groups. Talk with people and advocate with your officials. Talk with the police department. They just love talking to people, and be a mentor. Have the police department come out and give a talk. Just be a mentor and have a good, foster good relationships with people. But most importantly, if you see something that is unusual, that you're uncomfortable with, say something. We have some of the highest rates of abduction and murder of uh, indigenous populations than any other place in the country. So we really need to, if we see something, say something. These are problems that we can absolutely help with. You don't have to put yourself in this situation. You don't have to insert yourself into the situation. You can actually get help with it. But if you have somebody coming to you saying, hey, this is a problem, listen and believe. That's one of the things that victims tell us the most, is that people don't believe them when they try to say something. So listen to them and believe. So there are some apps out there that you can use now. The Stop app is one of them. If you want to report something, it is an international app. They have a system in place that if something is reported to them, it can be routed. That report is routed to the closest legal agency that is to the location of the report, and it is investigated. The one on the right is the Traffic Cam app, and it is the hotel image. So if you are traveling, this is something that you absolutely can do. You can get this app on your phone, and you can take pictures of your hotel room and post that in the app. And then law enforcement can use that to recognize images of hotels and locations from ads and other things. So it's a huge database of hotel rooms. So just know that that's something that you can do. And here's all kinds of contact information. I can get you flyers and ads and anything, anything you need. If you want it, we can get it for you. There's the Dragonfly Home does education. They also have a shelter. The Coalition Against Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault, but most importantly is the National Human Trafficking Hotline. So if you see something, say something, and those are the people you need to say it to, because they will investigate that. I put the rights of human trafficking victims on there for you to look at, and that is what I have for you today. Unless we have time and want to look at the app, I could pull that one up.
Yeah, I think it's okay to pull up the app and see, because anyways, we have a question form. So
Well,
they can even
yeah.
post.
So that's okay. So it can actually just run while we talk. So
Yeah.
it's a video, so there's no talking to it.
Okay.
So I can just pull that up. So let me stop this and switch it out, and that can run while we are, oh, except for I closed it. Let me go back to it. So questions, what do y'all have?
So anyone has any questions? Somebody wants to go first to us? Like, yeah, Dr. Shamsuddin has uh, made a chat. Like, she's saying, like, you mentioned some features that can be used to identify existing victims. If someone was to create an AI to help with identifying potential victims or existing victims, what information would the researcher need, and what would be the responsible behavior from the AI? That's her question.
That is a fantastic question. Okay, so let me look. Let me look at this. You mentioned some features that can be used to identify. Okay, so this slide deck that is running right now, can y'all see it?
No, we can't see the slide.
Okay. Oh yeah, it would help if I shared it. Now you can see it, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So let me come back over here and yes, that's what I wanted to do. All right. I'm just arranging things here. So this video that is playing right now is the actual app and how it is used. So let me see if it is. There we go. So these are the things that we can look at. It's not necessarily an AI right now. You have to actually interact with it. But you know, we haven't really gotten to the AI component of it. It is very manual at this point. It would be lovely if somebody had the ability to do it, but these are the things that the predictive model is looking at, and this ad frequency is just showing up, just telling you how many times. Let me go back. Let me kind of walk through this. This one, the ad frequency is talking about how many times this particular ad that they selected shows up, or that this information shows up in ads. And then the average trafficking score is what the predictive model says indicates that it's trafficking. So how likely it is that it's trafficking. So when you click on the view ad or detailed ads, you can actually scroll through all 74 ads in this case and look at them to see if they're the same. But it also gives you a summary of whether they have evidence of restricted movement or evidence of a transient activity or emojis or how many different locations they are in, all of which are indications of commercial sexual exploitation. So the app is already looking at those items, and then the officer can go through, or the investigator can go through and read it and compare the information that they have from these ads to other information they have in the investigation. So that's important because they can look for other victims. They can, kind of start narrowing in on the actual trafficker themselves. Does that help? The responsible behavior of the AI would not to be to say this person is trafficked, but give them information to help them solidify an investigation.
Solidify the investigation. Okay. Any other has any question? Any other person? Yeah, there is another question. Do you know if the writers of these ads are doing anything to prevent themselves from being detected by the ad classification system like the one you showed?
So yes and no. They use things, it depends on where you're getting the information from. So if it's a web-based ad, not necessarily in an app. If it's something that can handle images, they tend to use images to protect some of the information from quick text analytics systems, from the AI systems. With the AI being able to search images now, that is changing. You know, we're seeing that change, that shift, and now they're coming up with different ways. But no, for the most part, they don't try to hide it. They are out there, just out there, just like they were on the street corner in the old days. They are out there, pimping out their people. But what happens is, what we've seen is that they're only out there for a very limited time. So if you see an ad come up, the investigation time is very short, 6 weeks.
So, any more questions? In the mean gap, we just have 5 minutes time. So let me quickly show like how to navigate to submit your questions online from our website. And just a minute, like let me share my screen. Let me know if you're able to see my screen.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, so this is the website. So basically what I have sent out for the WIDS, just a minute, let me open again. Just going to put this down. Okay, so if you click on the website from the email, and then if you scroll down, you can see building scalable predictive models and 2024 WIDS regional event. And we have a Q&A form here. So if you click on this form, so you can submit the questions, like, you know, you can have your questions here for whom, which speaker, what questions you have, how many questions you have, you can submit that so that Dr. Miriam can also log into this to answer their questions. So she will be using the answer form for that. So yeah, that's what I wanted to show before it ends. And I have one quick question, and then after that, maybe we'll wind up. It's 11:27 already. So the question that I have is, Dr. Miriam, you said like you have been doing this project since 2016, I believe. And I just wanted to know over this period of time, right, from 2016 till 2024. So how much percentage over the years you can see the improvement because of the predictive analytics you have done, and you have given that helpful tool for the people to track down. So how much percentage of trafficking you are able to successfully track down, like the people can successfully track down based on the system that you have provided? How helpful it was?
Yeah, so unfortunately, I can't say that it's been fantastic, right? No, because we just got into beta testing this last year. So what we're currently doing is having them look at their old records, and look into the system to see if the information is in the system. We are still working on getting the new stuff in. We scrape, LSU is responsible for scraping, and they scrape every day, all the time, 24/7. And it's just millions of records. So there's not really a number that I can give you as of yet that the app has made a difference on, because it's just not to that point yet.
Got it.
Yeah, we had a lot of things that we had to put in place legally first before we could get there, and we're just starting to get there. It's been a
Got it.
long and slow process. We're here for the long game.
Got it. So another quick question, and then we can wind up. Like, I know that you're also developing the app for UK policies, and currently the app is only for the US, within the US, is it? The
So,
app that you showed.
right. So the app that we're developing, Break the Chain, is only housing US data. The UK app, the Stop app, actually has data from all across the world. What they have, though, is very limited US data. So one of the things that we would like to partner with them is us getting their data and them getting our data, so we can have that connection even more with the apps. But their app does a different process, right? It comes from this from a concerned citizen side, where we have the legal side, and so they are complements, not not competitors, which is nice.
That's awesome. So it was, I mean, it's time almost. So it was a great topic and discussion. Sounds very interesting too. And I have showed the Q&A, and please, all the audiences, if you have any questions, feel free to go and post your questions, and Dr. Miriam can answer it. And it was a wonderful, lovely talk. And I'm going to post 1 or 2 questions again on the form. Thank you for this. Thank you for your time, and thanks all the audiences and also the special guest speaker for doing this talk. And thanks to everyone for attending the wonderful session today.
Well, thank you, everyone. I really appreciate you inviting me. I really enjoy talking about this, even though it's a terrible topic to have to talk about.
So hope to see you all again for the next week's event, and I'll send out the email and the flyers and everything. Thank you guys for participating. Have a wonderful day. Bye.
Bye.